The purpose of this video is to look at the essentials of property. What does property mean? We're going to be leading towards understanding private property in land, and we're going to be using the philosophical system of moderate realism. Moderate realism is the philosophical system largely perfected by Aristotle, also followed on by others and developed for a few hundred years up until the reaction against realist philosophy by the early modern thinkers such as René Descartes. The reason we're using moderate realism is that it is a philosophical system that appeals to common sense. And we'll talk about that as we go along. It's the philosophical system that you learn about the time when you learn to talk, about 1 or 2 years old. It's also the system that assumes that we can know reality, and it's reality that is always the interesting thing to know. It's one thing to have an opinion, but the real object of the human mind is to understand what's really going on, what reality is. And here we're going to explore what the reality of property is. First thing is to define property. We're thinking about real estate or real property, but a property in philosophy and in general, a property is something which is proper to a thing. A property is a quality of a thing that it must have in order to be itself. That's the general notion of property. And when we come to land property, while that might seem a bit alien at the moment, we'll see that it actually comes back to this notion. Is it proper for me to have a particular area of the Earth's surface for my own benefit? Okay. This general notion of property, a property is a quality of a thing that it must have in order to be itself. It can be a physical attribute. For instance, a physical attribute of water is that it's made of hydrogen and oxygen in a ratio of 2 to 1. It also can be an appearance. A property of water is that it's liquid at sea level under normal temperatures. Go to the North Pole, it might be a solid. Maybe go somewhere else at a really high temperature, it will be a gas. But in the common circumstances in which humans live, we can say water is a liquid at normal temperatures and pressures. It can be a physical attribute, a property can be an appearance, it can be an ability. Water will dissolve common salt, but it will not dissolve wax. If you have a liquid, it might have most of the properties that you can think of associated with water, but it will dissolve your candles, your wax, then it can't be water. On the other hand, it will dissolve salt. So they're the abilities, the attributes, the powers of water. And so a property can be any of those things. But the important thing is it must have that quality in order to be itself. If a thing is deprived of one of its qualities, it will either be less than its nature normally requires. It's like a man who's lost a leg in an accident. Yes, he's still a man, but he is less than a complete man because he has to hop around all the time. And you could reasonably consider him as unfortunate because he's missing out a normal quality of what it is to be human. Or another common situation is a victim of injustice. If someone pokes my eye out, I've lost my eye as a result of some violence, some injustice, something which is not proper to be done to me. One of the properties of humans, as we'll see, is their life. And so to take a person's life for them is necessarily an injustice, at least if the life is taken from them by another man. if it's taken from them as a result of being in a way when a volcano explodes, or go out surfing when a shark comes by, you might lose your life as a result of just the doings of nature. It's not a moral act when a shark eats somebody. It's simply the shark doing what a shark normally does. Let's look at the properties of humans. We've looked at the properties of water. Now, properties of humans. We have a human body, male or female. So we can say it's proper for a human to have a body. It may be a male body or a female body. Just the accidents, the way it happens within the spectrum of what is normal for a human body. It won't have a snake's body or an elephant's body. Humans have 46 chromosomes with particular characteristics. We all have that, and if we don't, something's likely to go wrong with us. Our lives begin at the moment of conception, because at that point, those 46 chromosomes which define our bodies for the rest of our lives actually form up in the nucleus of that first cell, and you have a new human being with all the dignity of a human in any part of their life. Properties of humans include life. This is very, very important. And as a result of that, we need the things that support life. We have a need for food, and because we are really not able to deal with the climate, the ups and downs, we need clothing and we need shelter. We have certain physical abilities. We have our physical strength, our dexterity, our ability to oppose our fingers to our thumb and be able to manipulate things as a result. Dexterity puts us beyond any other animal. Dogs and cats can't hold things in their paws, and they certainly can't manipulate them anything like as well as we can. They're familiar with only being able to push and pull things or scratch them or whatever. They can't hold them and manipulate them. They can't write, for instance, because they can't hold a pen. It's proper for humans to have reason, memory, passions, and will. They're the faculties of the mind, the powers of the mind. Reason is the ability to think logically and think abstractly. Memory speaks for itself. The passions or the emotions are feelings we get, which we largely inherit from lower animals. They are not reasonable, but they do move us. When we see food, we tend to want to eat it, and so on. And we can also feel fear, and you've seen that probably in dogs and cats. There are things that cause them to be afraid, especially when they're abused. There are things that will cause them to feel a form of happiness, and humans do the same thing. The differences between animals and humans is the powers of will and reason. Dogs and cats have a memory and passions. They don't have reason or will. If you present a dog with food, he'll eat it. Present a human with food, they'll look at it and think, am I on a diet? Is this good for me? They'll make lots of decisions before they choose to eat. And so we use reason, our logical capacity, to make decisions about the things that are presented to our senses. And we make decisions about that reasoning using our will. Humans also have almost, we could call them social needs regarding how they're brought up. And really for the first 15 to 20 years of life, different cultures sometimes lower that boundary down to maybe about 13, about puberty. But up till whatever time you're ready to launch out, we need nurturing. Babies need parents. They need them for a lot more things and for a lot longer than virtually all other animals. And likewise, at the end of life, it's usual for humans to need others. We need education and enculturation because we have a social quality, a social aspect to our being. It is proper for humans to be social. We not only want to form families through men and women choosing marriage, the social qualities and needs extends far beyond that, and the entire discipline of economics is about the social satisfaction of our material needs, food, clothing and shelter, and perhaps the satisfaction of other qualities as well. We're prepared in the economy to support musicians, poets, Shakespeare, lots of things that aren't necessarily directly related to food, clothing and shelter, to satisfy our social needs and the needs that are presented as a result of the complexities of our minds, especially our reason and perhaps our passions. And last on this list, although it's not last in the list, is the inclination towards forming families as adults. These are important qualities to consider whenever we consider anything that humans do, and this includes our economic behaviour. Okay, they're the properties, they're the things which are proper to humans. It means that if you deprive a human of any of these, you are doing them an injustice, and if they lose them through some natural misadventure, then they are in some way disadvantaged. Of these abilities, I'd like to concentrate specifically on the question of life. Life is a natural property of humans. If I do not have life, I am simply a dead corpse, a bunch of chemistry which is not good for very much apart from burying. So life is a property of what it is to be human, and because it's a natural property, if you take it away, I'm no longer human. We can say that it is proper to us. It is naturally a property, and as a result we can say it is ours, we own it. Our life is naturally ours and completely ours. Anyone who takes our life or a part of it from us violates us in some way. We may use our lives to do things of value for others, such as when we use our life or a part of it in the form of labour, which is a part of our life given to the production of something of value to others. I could mow my own lawn, but I appreciate it when another person comes and mows my lawn, and I'm so appreciative that I'm willing to pay them for it. And what am I paying for? I'm paying for their time, which is really the measure of labour, and labour itself is really what you're applying a part of your life to. That is, that when the man comes to mow my lawn, he is devoting an hour of his Saturday afternoon or an hour of his time generally to doing something of value to me. And so what he's selling to me, what I pay for in dollars, measured by time, I call it labour, but it's really a part of his life. And because we naturally own our own lives, that little part of his life that he gives to me, I have an obligation to make it up to him, in this case using money. I could use something else of value. And the idea of labouring, giving our lives to others, is a social activity. We always labour for other people. Sometimes we might labour for other people indirectly. Say if I'm, I don't know, working on the council or something and fixing the road, I don't know who's going to benefit from it, but the community in general is. I get paid for it, my labour, that part of my life, and it sort of filters through the complexities of taxes and government and so on. Overall, the social exchange of parts of our life in the form of our labour for the labour of others is more efficient. And so this exchange of property, in fact the entire basis of our economy, and in fact our social life, is a lot more efficient, and usually it leads to greater happiness. It's nice that I'm able to get my lawn mown by someone who likes mowing lawns. It means I can devote myself to other things, and between the two of us we're able to have more fulfilled lives. Socially, it's more efficient.